Welcome, let's talk about some NHL news, which will probably change any minute now. First off, Taylor Hall looks like he's going to sign a deal with the Boston Bruins at 4 years with a $6 million AAV. Probably a no-trade clause thrown in there as well. Bruins have plenty of cap space left to sign players like their UFA Krejci, Rask, and still have some money left over. So look for some more news coming out of Boston. Next, we have the Seattle Kraken have traded Tyler Pitlik after getting him in the expansion draft from the Arizona Coyotes to the Calgary Flames for a 2022 fourth rounder. Pitlik is a center/winger who can play the PK, a defensive specialist. In Arizona last season, in 38 games, he had 11 points -1. Some people think that might be a bit of a compensation from a side deal for the Kraken taking Giordano. Maybe we'll find out more about that later. Next, also involving the Arizona Coyotes, a one-way trade that involves them and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Yotes take on the contract and player of Shane Gostisfire, plus a second and a seventh rounder in 2022 from the Philadelphia Flyers, who get nada. Now, the Ghost has 2 more years left on his deal at $4.5 million. Last season in 41 games, he had 20 points, was a -2. His career year was back in 2017-18, in which he had 65 points, was a +10. The next year, he dropped to 37 points, was a -20. Year after that, 12 points, -4. So maybe he just needs a change of scenery, and really, Arizona needs some defensemen, because most of their guys are UFAs. This will be the 4th defenseman they have under contract for this season, and that includes Ekman Larson, who's been mentioned in some trade rumors there. Then there's, of course, Chychrun and Lyubushkin, and then Demers Goligoski, Osterley, Hamilton, Ness, and Gross are all UFAs. Moving forward, let's talk about the craziest trade of the day. Detroit Red Wings. Yzerman makes off like a bandit. Don Waddell, what are you thinking? So the Canes trade goaltender, Calder nominee ALEX NEDELJKOVIC to the Detroit Red Wings for a bag of pucks. No, it's a 3rd rounder in 2021 and UFA goalie Jonathan Bernier. So Nedeljkovic, as we all know, had a breakout season with the Canes. In 23 games, he had a .932 save percentage. In 9 games in the playoffs, he was a .920. Apparently, the ask from Nedeljkovic for the Canes was $3.5 million. And because he had arbitration rights, they didn't want to pay him that. Why? And what's even crazier is that Yzerman turns around and signs him for 2 years at $3 million AAV. Less than what he was asking from the Canes. They have a goalie of the future now. Just probably, he is 25, he'll be 26 in January. He's projecting upwards, right? And it's not like Jonathan Bernier's chopped liver. But when I read this news on The Score, they said that now that the Hurricanes have their goaltender, they'll be looking for a backup. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You just got a backup for a starter. You could have had both of those players for around $6 million or less. Bernier and Nedeljkovic. It would have been a great match. I even mentioned it in 3-4 videos ago about UFA goalies. This is nuts. This reminds me of Waddell back in the Atlanta Thrashers days. Okay, this tweet from Devin L. at Hockey with Devin, who writes for the Hockey Writers, quoted Yzerman as, when he was asked about why the Canes felt they had to trade a Calder nominee goaltender, he said, Yzerman, you'll have to ask them why they're comfortable with doing that. And then Don Waddell was quoted as saying, if you check out Sarah Sivian, at Sarah Sivian, who covers the Canes, Waddell says, we're in a win-now mode, and having a veteran goalie Bernier makes the most sense for our franchise right now. Makes no sense. You should have just signed Bernier as a UFA and played him in tandem with Nedeljkovic. Okay, we're going to move on for this because this is just absolutely bonkers. Montreal Canadiens GM Marc Bergevin has come out to say that Shea Weber is probably done. Not for the season, but for his career, which is a real shame. He's been a great player his entire career, but he's got like multiple injuries he's got to deal with. When it comes to his contract, it's around over $7.8 million for the next 5 more years. We'll see how that works out if he actually retires or he just goes under LTIR. I know there'll be a very harsh cap recapture for Nashville if that happens, but I won't dive into that right now. Moving forward, the Edmonton Oilers look like they're close to signing Zach Hyman to a $7 or $8 million deal worth about $5 million-ish per season AAV. What's holding it up is there might be a sign-in trade where the Leafs sign him for $8 million at 5 point something and then trade him to Edmonton for, a draft pick or two in order they don't lose him for nothing. Hyman was a great player for the Leafs. Probably underpaid for the past 4 or 5 seasons, really. He's 29 right now. Oiler fans are going to love this guy, at least for the next 3 seasons. Now, in 43 games, he had 15 goals, 33 points, plus 19 for the Leafs. And then in 7 playoff games, 1 goal, 1 point, plus 2. He's a hound on the puck. He'll get that to your skilled players, goes to the front of the net, takes a beating, keeps on eating. He's just a great all-around guy and person, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck. Moving forward, Seattle Kraken forward Yanni Gourde is going to have shoulder surgery or has had shoulder surgery. He'll be back in about 4 months, which means around mid-November-ish. More Seattle Kraken news. Jamie Oleksiak signed with them, who's a left shot defenseman. Happens to be the heaviest guy in the league, by the way, at 255 pounds. 6'7" WWE wrestler, really. I didn't realize he was from Toronto either. He's 28 years old. He'll be 29 in December. Did I mention the contract? 5 years at $4.6 million AAV. Last season with Dallas in 56 games, and he had 6 goals, 14 points, was a -3. In the season before that, in the playoffs, when they went to the finals in 27 games, he had 5 goals, 9 points, plus 11 for a defensive defenseman. He was fantastic, and the GM of the Dallas Stars just must be reeling right now. He could have traded him for the trade deadline and got something for him because a lot of teams were after him, and he obviously really liked this player to begin with. He probably thought he could re-sign him because he traded to get him back from Pittsburgh. That hurts for Dallas and their GM, but that's good signing. I think that's the longest contract right now for the Kraken. Next, the New York Rangers signed officially Barclay Goodrow, who they traded for from Tampa to a 6-year deal worth $3.6 million AAV. Moving on, more Edmonton news. This is a little baffling for me. I talked about this in my UFA goalie video. Maybe I'll put up a link for that at some point. They signed Mike Smith, 39 years old. He's gonna be 40 in March. They signed him to a 2-year deal, not 1, to $2.2 million AAV. It's not like a crazy amount, but in this day and age with a stagnant cap, you need to save every penny. How did they not sign this guy to like a 1-year deal and at half that price? 1.2. I know it can be hard keeping or signing free agents in Canada in general, really, but still. I mean, he's not your starting goaltender. He's got to be your backup, right? You can't go back with him and Koskinen again. Are they going to buy Koskinen out? Are they going to bury him in the minors? We'll see what happens there, but they need a starter. You can say, well, in 32 games last season, Smith had a .923 save percentage, and in 4 playoff games, he had a .912. Yeah, but the season before that, he was a .902. And the season before that, he was an .898. And this is an old goalie. He can't be playing more than probably like 30 games, and he definitely shouldn't be your starter, especially for the playoffs. Come on. What are you doing, Holland? Anyway, I don't think all their fans are happy about that one. Semi-happy, maybe. Detroit Red Wings, more news on that front very quickly. They signed Michael Rasmussen re-sign him. He plays all forward positions. He's a hulking 6'6", 221 pounds, only 22. Really improved his skating and his face-off ability. He'll play in the bottom 6. In 40 games last season, he had 12 points, was a -5. Kid has some potential. And then last bit of news here, the Kraken, Adam Larson, formerly of the Edmonton Oilers, to a 4-year deal worth $4 million AAV. This was sad for Edmonton because I think they offered him the same amount of money, and I don't think it had anything to do with the city itself or anything. I think he just needed a change of scenery, is what I'm hearing from the beat reporters and insiders. His father passed away when he came to visit him in Edmonton, and he still has the stigma of that, the 1-for-1 Taylor Hall trade he's got to live up to. His friend Clefbaum doesn't look like he's going to be playing, so I just think he needed to reset his brain. But he really has blossomed late in his career into a shutdown defenseman, especially for a sought-after right shot. He's 6'3", 208 pounds. Last season, 56 games, 4 goals, 10 points, +2. In 4 games in the playoffs, he had 2 assists and was a -4. Kraken are going to have a very large, tough defense. That's for certain. That's it. That's all. I would love to hear what you think of these trades down in the comment section below. And don't forget that I will be doing a live reaction NHL draft coverage on YouTube on Friday and Saturday. I would love you to join me for that. It was a lot of fun. I also did the same thing for the expansion draft. You can find that in my playlist as well. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Please remember to be kind to each other out there in this crazy world we're living in right now, and I'll see you soon.